The scream that morning could wake a dead man. Agatha! The voice thundered through the small compound like a warning from heaven. Birds scattered. Even the neighbor's goat paused mid-chew. Agatha froze where she stood, her hands still deep inside a bowl of soapy water. She closed her eyes briefly and whispered, "Gotta beg, not today." But of course, it was today. Trouble had a calendar in Mama Bisi's house, and Agatha's name was written on every page. She wiped her wet hands on her wrapper and rushed inside, her heart thumping like a talking drum. Mama Bisi sat on her wooden chair like a queen on a broken throne, wrapper tied across her chest, chewing stick in her mouth, one leg crossed over the other. Her face carried that permanent frown that could curdle milk. Beside her sat Agatha's father, Mr. Alfred, once a proud carpenter, now looking like a tired broomstick. His eyes were on the floor, as always. "Where were you when I called you the first time?" Mama Bisi asked, tapping her foot. "I was washing plates, Ma," Agatha replied softly. Mama Bisi hissed long and hard. "Washing plates. Plates that you will still eat from after your useless beauty has finished scaring men away, aye?" Agatha bit her lip. She knew better than to answer. Silence was her only defense in that house. Since her mother's death 6 years ago, peace had moved out and packed its load. People in the village of Eziaka often said that Agatha was too beautiful for her own good. Her dark skin glowed like freshly polished mahogany. Her smile could melt even the angriest market woman, and her eyes, deep brown and innocent, had a way of making people pause mid-sentence. But in her stepmother's eyes, all that beauty was nothing but bad luck in human form. "You'll see, Alfred." Mama Bisi would always say, "This your daughter will bring wahala. Beauty that doesn't come with sense or husband is just public decoration." And today she was ready to make sure that decoration found a permanent home. Mama Bisi smirked, a wicked little curve at the edge of her mouth. "Agatha," she began sweetly, too sweetly, "I have good news for you." Agatha blinked. "Good news?" "Yes-o," the woman continued, her voice dripping with fake cheer. "You won't be disturbing my house for long. You are getting married." "Wait, what?" Agatha's jaw dropped. "To who?" "To Chief Obala," Mama Bisi said proudly, folding her arms. "Chief Obel, the old man with one leg and no teeth?" Her stepmother snapped her fingers. "Exactly. At least you know him. That means you should be grateful. Who else will marry a girl that brings bad luck and can't even cook beans without burning it?" Agatha stared in disbelief. She wanted to laugh, but her throat was dry. "Mama Bisi, that man is older than Papa." "So," the woman barked. "He's rich. He said he'll build a new roof for this house and buy me a sewing machine. What more do you want in life? Love?" she cackled. "Love doesn't pay rent, my dear. Ask your father." Agatha turned to her father, her voice trembling. "Papa, please tell her this can't be true. You can't give me to that man. I'll rather die." Mr. Alfred sighed deeply and rubbed his forehead, avoiding her eyes. "My daughter?" he started. Then silence. He couldn't continue. Agatha's heart broke, again. It wasn't the first time her father had chosen silence over her, but this time it hurt differently. This time it felt final. Mama Bisi slammed her hand on the table. "Enough of this drama. You'll marry Chief Obel before the weekends. You better start practicing how to walk slowly so your new husband can catch up." The neighbor's rooster crowed from outside, almost as if mocking Agatha's misery. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she said nothing. She turned to walk away, but Mama Bisi's voice followed her like a slap. "And don't cry those fake tears here. Cry in your husband's house. Maybe his hearing aid will pick the sound." The laughter that followed was loud and cruel. As Agatha walked back to the backyard, the sunlight hit her face. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Mama, if you're watching from heaven, please send thunder to this woman before she finishes me." Suddenly, the world around Agatha felt like it had collapsed in one loud bam moment. Her chest rose and fell as she ran through the narrow bush path behind their compound. She didn't even know where her legs were taking her. She just knew she had to run before she went mad. Her slippers flew off somewhere between the cassava farm and the mango tree. But who cared? She didn't. By the time she reached the forest behind Eziaka village, she crashed to the ground under a tall iroko tree and burst into tears. Real, loud, body-shaking tears. God, why me? She cried, hitting her chest. Did I offend anybody in my previous life? Maybe I stole someone's meat from their pot before dying? The wind rustled through the leaves like it was mocking her pain. Birds chirped above her as if to say, Agata, I beg rest, cry no day solve problem. But she couldn't stop. She cried for her mother, the only person who ever called her my sunshine. She cried for her dreams, to one day finish school, start a small tailoring shop, maybe even travel to Enugu. And she cried for David, the one man whose smile could make her forget how wicked the world was. Now all that was gone. She was to marry Chief Obile, the same man who coughed like a generator on its last breath, the same man whose left eye wandered like a lost goat. Me? Marry Chief Obel? She sobbed. I'd rather marry Nipa. At least Nipa leaves and comes back sometimes. Chief Obele will just sit and be breathing like bag of cement. Her voice cracked mid-laugh and turned back into a sob. Just then she heard rustling behind her. Her heart skipped. Maybe it's Mama Bisi coming to finish me with pestle, she thought, quickly wiping her tears. But when she turned, her heart melted. David stood there, tall, strong, and serious, carrying his hunting bow over his shoulder. His eyes softened when they met hers. Agata? His voice was calm but worried. What happened? Why are you crying like someone that just lost a goat? She tried to speak, but the words got stuck behind the lump in her throat. She finally whispered, They want to marry me off, David. To Chief Obel. David's face froze. For a moment, even the forest went silent. Then his jaw tightened, and his hand balled into a fist. That old man that limps like he's counting his steps to heaven? He asked. Agata gave a weak nod. David hissed and kicked a small stone. No, this can't happen. Over my dead body. How can they give you to that antique? Agata chuckled through her tears. Please don't say that. Mama Bisi will hear you and say we're planning rebellion. David squatted beside her. His eyes were full of determination. Listen, I don't know how yet, but I'll find a way to stop this. You hear me? You're not marrying that man. Agata stared at him, her heart heavy but fluttering. His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. For the first time that day, she smiled weakly. You always say that, David. You always make me feel like there's still hope in this wicked world. He grinned. That's because there is hope. Besides, have you seen Chief Obel's dance steps? You can't tell me God planned that for you. Agata let out a small laugh, the kind that came from pain and love mixed together. But deep inside, she feared David's promise might be just another dream that would vanish by morning. The day of the wedding came faster than Harmattan breeze. The compound was crowded, drummers beating away, villagers gossiping in corners, and Mama Bisi pacing proudly in her new lace wrapper like she was the bride. Agata sat inside, dressed in a faded cream gown that used to be her mother's. She looked beautiful. Yes, but her eyes were hollow. Her hands trembled as women sang outside. Don't cry, Agata, one of them whispered, adjusting her head tie. Just endure. At least Chief Obele will feed you. Feed me or kill me, Agata muttered under her breath. Outside, Chief Obele stood, leaning on his walking stick, smiling like an overripe plantain. His missing front tooth gave him a permanent whistle every time he said something. As the village elders began the ceremony, Agata felt numb. Her lips moved, but her mind was far away, in that forest, under that iroko tree, where David had promised her freedom. Her eyes darted around until they found him, standing at the edge of the crowd, watching her silently. His expression broke her heart. When the elder said, "You may now take your husband's hand," Agata felt something inside her die. Her palm met Chief Obello's wrinkled hand, rough and cold like yam peel. She blinked back tears, whispering to herself, "Na film be this. Na only film people they marry like this." And just like that, it was done. The next morning, Agata sat by the small window of her new home. The compound was quiet, except for chickens scratching outside. She stared blankly at the field where she and David once played as children. Her chest ached with memories. Then she heard his voice behind her, gentle, soft, unexpected. Agata, Chief Obel called. She turned slowly. He stood by the doorway, leaning on his stick. His tone was calm, almost shy. Would you like to join me outside? The morning air is fresh. For a second, she almost refused, but something in his eyes made her pause. Not cruelty, not arrogance, just loneliness. So she nodded and followed him. They sat quietly on a small bench under a mango tree behind the hut. He didn't say much, and neither did she. The silence was heavy, but not entirely hostile. Finally, Chief Obel spoke. I know this isn't what you wanted, my daughter, he said slowly, staring at the horizon. I can see it in your eyes. You resent this marriage, but maybe we can find a way to live in peace. Agata's throat tightened. She didn't hate him, not yet at least. She hated her situation, her helplessness, her father's silence. She managed a small nod. Chief Obel smiled faintly. You're stronger than you think. Don't let life convince you otherwise. Agata blinked back tears. His words were kind, too kind for a man she had cursed all night in her mind. But as the morning sun painted the sky gold, she realized something. Not every enemy looked like a monster. Still, as she looked beyond the trees, she knew her story was far from over. It had been 3 weeks since Agata officially became Madame Obele. But truth be told, the title sounded heavier than cement. Each morning she woke up before sunrise, swept the compound, fetched water, and cooked yam for Chief Obele. Yet, no matter how many chores she completed, she still felt like a stranger in her own life, like someone living another woman's destiny. That morning, Chief Obel had said something strange before heading out to his farm. He'd looked at her with those soft, thoughtful eyes and said, Perhaps one day you'll see that strength I see in you. Agata had just blinked. Which strength? This one that's sweeping with tears and frying with frustration? She thought. But she didn't argue. She'd learned that life sometimes spoke in riddles, and her patience was the only weapon she had left. As she swept the dusty floor of their small hut, her movements were slow, robotic. The broom moved left and right, but her mind was far away, on David. David, the one person who could make her laugh even when her world was on fire. The one who had promised to save her from this nightmare. But it had been weeks, and not even a single word from him. Maybe love too has expiry date, she muttered bitterly. Like gari that stays too long in water. Outside, she could hear the distant laughter of villagers passing by. Their voices carried mockery wrapped in melody. See, fine girl, we become chief's handbag-o, someone said. Another voice added, and that's what beauty gets you when you don't have sense. Agata sighed and kept sweeping. But that was before she heard those footsteps, the kind that made her blood freeze. Slow, loud, commanding. Oh Lord, she whispered, gripping the broom tighter. This woman has come again. Then came the voice, dramatic enough to wake the ancestors. Agata! Are you in this house or you've turned to spirit? It was Mama Bisi, and beside her, of course, was her gossip partner, Auntie Comfort, a woman who couldn't keep a secret even if you paid her in dollars. The two of them strolled into the compound like queens on parade. Their head ties stood tall enough to challenge heaven, and their jewelry jingled louder than church bells. Mama Bisi scanned the house from top to bottom and gave a loud hiss. "Anne, so this is where you're living now? Very cozy," she said, dragging the word cozy the way people drag chewing gum that's losing flavor. Auntie Comfort folded her arms, pretending to admire the hut. "It's giving village luxury," she said with mock seriousness. "Chai, the girl is living the dream." They both burst out laughing. Agata's grip on the broom tightened. She wanted to throw it at them, but she swallowed hard and kept quiet. You don't fight pigs in the mud. They'll enjoy it more than you. Mama BC looked around again, shaking her head with dramatic pity. You see your life? You thought you were too fine to listen to me. You wanted to be forming woman of destiny. Now see you. Destiny has married you to pension. Auntie Comfort laughed so hard she almost bent over. Abeg, don't kill me, oh. Pension key? You mean Chief Obel? Mama BC nodded, snapping her fingers. Yes, nah. That man should be in retirement home, not honeymoon. And you better treat him well. If he coughs too hard, this your marriage will expire by obituary. Agata looked down, blinking rapidly. She could feel her tears threatening to betray her, but she refused to give them the satisfaction. Are you done? She asked quietly. Mama BC's eyebrows shot up. You dey talk back now, Abby? Poverty don't humble you small, but you still get mouth. Auntie Comfort giggled. BC, leave her now. The girl is overwhelmed by your presence. Some people faint when they see royalty. Their laughter echoed so loudly that even the chickens outside stopped pecking. But just as Mama BC was about to say something else, the door creaked open. Chief Obeli stepped in, slow, steady, and silent, his walking stick tapping the ground like a warning drum. His eyes immediately found Agata, then moved to the two women. His usual calm face darkened. Mama BC, he said slowly, his tone cold enough to freeze fire. What do you hear? Mama BC's tone changed instantly. Her face split into a fake, sugary smile. Chief Obole, my in-law. I just came to check on my darling daughter. You know, motherly love. Chief Obel leaned on his stick, not smiling. Motherly love? You've been shouting like market announcer since you arrived. What kind of love makes noise like that? Auntie Comfort gasped, clutching her chest. Chief, are you calling us noisy? Chief Obel's eyes narrowed. If the talking shoe fits, wear it. The silence that followed could slice yam. Mama BC cleared her throat. Anyway, Chief, we were just leaving. I only came to make sure my daughter is adjusting to her new life. Adjusting? Chief Obele asked, raising an eyebrow. Adjusting to your mockery or adjusting to your insults? That one hit hard. Auntie Comfort's smile evaporated. Mama BC stammered. Chief, don't take it that way now. We were only joking. Chief Obel took one slow step forward, his limp not diminishing the authority in his voice. Well, I don't find jokes that make my wife cry very funny. So, if you have nothing kind to say, take your laughter and your perfumes and leave my compound. Mama BC's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time in her life, she had been silenced. Auntie Comfort tugged at her wrapper. Let's go, BC, she whispered, before this man turns our visit into meeting with ancestors. They both turned sharply and left, muttering under their breath, their wrappers swishing in retreat. When they disappeared down the road, Agata finally let her tears flow. Chief Obel turned to her, his expression softening instantly. Don't let people like that define you, he said gently. You're stronger than they think. Agata wiped her eyes and whispered, Thank you. That evening, as the sun melted into gold over Eziaka, she sat outside the hut, staring at the horizon, her heart a little lighter than before. She didn't know if it was Chief Obel's unexpected kindness or just relief that Mama BC was gone. But for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like running away. A few minutes later, Chief Obel came out quietly and stood beside her. Mind if I sit? He asked. She nodded, making room for him on the wooden bench. For a while, neither of them said a word. The sound of crickets filled the silence. Then, Obel spoke softly. You know, you could have left, he said, staring ahead. You've been through too much, Agata, but you stayed. Agata frowned. Leave and go where? I have no mother, no money, no place to run. Besides, she hesitated, glancing at him. You didn't treat me badly. Maybe that's reason enough. Chief Obel turned to her with a small, sad smile. You remind me of my younger self, fighting battles nobody sees. You think you're weak, but you're not. Agata swallowed hard. His words reached somewhere deep, the place she'd locked away all her pain. She looked at him quietly. Maybe you're not what I thought either. For a moment, they just sat there, Two broken souls, tied together by fate, finding strange comfort in each other's silence. And as the night breeze swept across Eziaka, Agata realized something she never expected to feel again. Peace. Just then, Chief Obel's voice cut through the silence. Do you ever feel like you're living a life that doesn't belong to you? Agata blinked. What do you mean, sir? He sighed, eyes fixed on the small fire. Like you made some choices, and now you're stuck in a story that doesn't make sense anymore. Agata smiled faintly, her voice low. Every day, she whispered, I wake up and ask myself how I got here. It's like I've lost myself somewhere between surviving and pretending. Chief Obel nodded slowly, his eyes distant. You sound like me. Agata tilted her head. You? Yes, he said, his voice soft. Ever since I lost her, my wife. Agata went quiet. She didn't have to ask who he meant. The sadness in his eyes said it all. The old man's face, usually stern and unreadable, now looked like a map of regret. I've carried that pain for years, he said. Regret for the things I said and for the ones I didn't. Sometimes I wish life had a repeat button. Agata's heart squeezed painfully. I'm sorry, she whispered. He turned to her, his eyes glistening. You remind me of her. Not your face, he added quickly with a small chuckle. No one could match her face, but your strength, your stubbornness, she would have liked you. Agata's throat tightened. Tears stung her eyes before she could stop them. She didn't understand why his words hit so deeply, but they did. Chief, she began, her voice trembling. I may not know your pain, but I'd like to understand. I want to. He looked at her for a long time, the corners of his lips twitching into a weak smile. You have a kind heart, Agata. Maybe too kind. When the time is right, I'll tell you everything. Agata nodded slowly, a strange mix of sadness and warmth spreading in her chest. The next morning, the Eziaka market was chaos. Pure, unfiltered Nigerian chaos. Hawkers were shouting like they were being paid per decibel. Goats were arguing with their owners, and someone somewhere was frying puff-puff like her life depended on it. Agata walked through the crowd, balancing a small basket on her arm. But she held her head high, or tried to. Not she be that, a woman's voice whispered behind her. The fine girl we marry old Chief Obele. Chai, waste of beauty, another voice replied. She for Don marry one young man with Range Rover by now. Agata's stomach knotted. She tried to ignore them, reaching for a tuber of yam on a stall. Her hands shook slightly, and then she heard it. The one voice she dreaded more than mosquitoes during Harmattan. Well, 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 if it isn't the village princess turned pensioner's wife. Agata froze. Her breath caught. She didn't even have to turn. She knew that voice too well. Mama Bisi. Her stepmother stood there in her usual rich madam uniform, jella taller than confidence, wrapper brighter than Lagos traffic, and jewelry that screamed louder than her mouth. Friends flanked her, both holding handbags as if the market was Paris Fashion Week. Mama Bisi, Agata murmured, her voice low. Oh, please don't pretend to be shy, Mama Bisi said, smiling sweetly, her tone dripping with mockery. Tell me, my dear, how does it feel? All that beauty, all that potential, and you're stuck with one old man using walking stick. Her friends burst into laughter loud enough to wake ancestors. One even added, I beg leave 'em jare. Maybe she like experience. Old men sabi romance. Agata's eyes stung, humiliation burning through her chest. Before she could say a word, a new voice cut through the noise. Firm, calm. That's enough. Everyone turned. David. He stood tall, his hunter's bow slung across his back, looking like someone straight out of a Nollywood movie scene. His eyes, dark and sharp, met Mama Bisi's with steady disapproval. Mama Bisi, he said quietly, don't you think you've said enough? Oh, ho! Mama Bisi clapped dramatically. So the village hunter has now become her bodyguard? David didn't flinch. She doesn't deserve this, he said simply. She's been through enough. Mama Bisi raised an eyebrow, smirking. And who are you to decide what she deserves? Her husband, her savior, or her secret admirer? The crowd gasped and giggled. The woman had no brakes. David's jaw tightened. Whatever I am, he said evenly, at least I still have sense and compassion. Mama Bisi hissed. Compassion? I beg, shift Jare. You think this one is Cinderella? She married for greed, not love. Look at her now, reaping what she sowed. Funny, David said, a small smile tugging his lips. You talk about greed as if you invented it. The crowd erupted in soft laughter. Someone even shouted, Talk am again, Hunter! Mama Bisi's face hardened. How dare you? She barked. How dare you? David replied calmly. Mocking her in public just to feel big. It's wickedness, pure and simple. Agata's eyes filled with tears, her chest heaving. She couldn't believe he was standing up for her like this. Mama Bisi tossed her hand dramatically. I beg, make I go jar. I don't have time for this hunter-turned-preacher. She turned on her heel, her two friends scurrying after her, their gel flapping like offended birds. The crowd started dispersing, still whispering, still gossiping, but the show was over. Agata stood there, silent, tears rolling freely now. David stepped closer, his tone softening. Don't let her words get to you, he said gently. People like that, they live for drama. Without it, their blood pressure might drop. Agata laughed weakly through her tears. You and your mouth, David. He smiled. At least I made you laugh. That's a start. They both stood there for a while, surrounded by the fading noise of the market, the shouts, the chatter, the smell of roasted corn. Then Agata looked at him and said quietly, Thank you for standing up for me. David shrugged. What are friends for? Besides, seeing Mama Bisi speechless even for 5 seconds, that one alone sweet my soul. Agata chuckled, wiping her tears. For a brief moment, amidst the chaos of Eziaka Market, she felt human again. Back home. Agatha sat on the old wooden bench outside the hut, her eyes dull like lanterns that had forgotten fire. The market basket she brought home was still by her feet, untouched. She hadn't unpacked a thing. Her whole body felt heavy, not from carrying pepper or yam, but because life itself had decided to squat on her chest like unpaid rent. Mama Bisi's voice still rang in her head like bad generator noise. Look at you. An orphan girl forming Juliet with that old man. Better go and learn sense before sense learns you. Agatha could still picture her stepmother's lips twisting as she said it, that wicked curve that could sour milk. Just thinking about it made her want to scream. But instead, she just stared into the horizon like someone watching her future disappear. That was when she heard the slow crunch of slippers on sand behind her. It was Chief O'Bailey, the man she had been forced to marry. The man whose age could challenge Methuselah's. His agbada swished softly as he walked, his golden walking stick tapping the ground like a talking drum. He stopped a few steps away and cleared his throat. You didn't touch your food, he said quietly. Agatha didn't even look up. I wasn't hungry, she muttered. Chief Obel sighed. Long, dramatic, like a man releasing the spirit of his last hope. He sat beside her, slowly, his cologne mixing with the smell of the evening air. For a while, silence sat between them, thick enough to cut with a knife. Then he said softly, I heard what happened at the market today, about David. Agatha's heart jumped like a frog in hot soup. She blinked, her hands fidgeting with her wrapper. Mama Bisi disgraced him, she whispered, right there in front of everybody. She said no matter how good David is, I'll never belong to him. That I was born to suffer. Chief Obel shook his head. That woman's tongue will lead her to an early grave, he muttered. And she doesn't know when to shut up. Agatha's voice trembled. She made him look like a beggar, but David just stood there. He didn't fight back. He looked at me and said, don't let her words define you. Her eyes watered. He defended me, Chief, even when he could have walked away. Chief Obel turned to her, his eyes softer now. That kind of man is rare, Agatha. If the gods bless you with one, don't let gossip steal him away. Agatha sniffed, her lips quivering. I don't even know how to thank him. He makes everything feel lighter, like Harmattan breeze after a long, hot day. Chief Obel smiled faintly, the corner of his mouth twitching. Sometimes, thank you isn't in words, my dear. It's in how you treat a person. Words fade, actions remain. She nodded slowly, but inside her heart was a battlefield. Gratitude, pain, confusion, all fighting for space. For a brief second, she imagined life without Mama Bisi's sharp tongue or constant humiliation. Maybe her real mother would still be alive. Maybe she wouldn't be here, married off to a man old enough to have helped Noah hammer the ark. Later that evening, she found herself at her favorite place, the quiet stream behind the old palm grove. The air was cool, carrying the smell of wet leaves and the gossip of crickets. She sat beside the water, watching her reflection ripple, a reflection that looked more like a stranger than herself. Then she heard a voice. Agatha. Of course, it was David. He emerged from the trees, a small gourd of palm wine in hand, and a teasing grin plastered across his face. You're thinking too much again, he said. If you continue like this, your brain will apply for pension. Agatha gave a weak laugh. How can I not think? Everything feels so heavy, like life is sitting on my neck with both legs. David crouched beside her, his tone soft. You're not alone, Agatha, not while I'm still here. Those words hit differently. Her chest tightened, her tears threatening again. I'm sorry, she whispered, for what Mama Bisi said to you, for all the insults. David chuckled. That woman's tongue is like expired pepper, hot for no reason. I'm fine, Agatha. Don't waste tears on her. She's been bitter since the day her rice burnt during New Yam Festival. Agatha laughed through her tears. You always know what to say, he grinned. That's because you always cry like you're auditioning for a Nollywood role. She swatted him playfully, and for the first time that day, a real smile bloomed on her face. They sat together quietly, the stream murmuring like an old storyteller. After a long silence, David spoke. One day, you'll be free, Agatha, free from all this. And when that day comes, don't forget me. Her eyes softened. Forget you? That's impossible. His gaze held hers, deep, steady, full of what-ifs. He reached out, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. For a moment, everything stopped. The wind, the crickets, even her heartbeat. Then a twig snapped. They both turned. Chief Obel stood there watching them. His face was unreadable. David quickly rose to his feet, bowing slightly. Good evening, sir, he said carefully. Evening, Chief Obel replied, his tone calm but firm. You may go. I need to speak with Agatha. David hesitated, glanced at Agatha, then quietly left. The air grew heavy again. Agatha braced herself for scolding, but the man's voice came softer, trembling even. Let's go back home. There's something I've carried for too long, Chief Obel said slowly. Agatha frowned, confused. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. Agatha, I'm not just the man they forced you to marry. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? He swallowed hard. I'm your father. The world went quiet. The cricket stopped. Even the stream paused mid-flow, as if shocked too. Agatha blinked, her voice trembling. My? What? Yes, he said, his voice breaking. Your mother, Blessing, and I were married before I was sent away from Eziaka. My people rejected her because she wasn't from a rich family. By the time I returned, she had remarried, but she already had you, my daughter. Agatha's mind spun like a loose ceiling fan. You mean all these years? You've been pretending? Chief Obelo nodded slowly. I didn't know how to tell you, not with Mama Bisi in the house, waiting to twist every word I say. But I couldn't stay away. I had to protect you, even if it meant marrying you on paper, so that no man would ruin you. Agatha's eyes flooded. You mean all the pain, all the confusion, was because you were trying to protect me? He nodded, tears glistening. Yes, my daughter. That's why I played along with the charade, why I let the world think I wanted a young wife. It was all to buy time, time to fix what was stolen from us. Agatha stared at him, trembling. Time for what? To restore your life, he said softly. To make sure you take back everything that belongs to you, your land, your mother's name, your freedom. The night wind blew, carrying distant drum beats from the village square. Somewhere far away, Mama Bisi was probably gossiping or sharpening her wicked tongue. But right there, Under the soft moonlight, Agatha's world cracked open, not in pain this time, but in revelation. The truth she thought she knew had been turned upside down. And as she looked at Chief Obeil, her eyes wide, tears streaming down her face as if someone had opened a tap behind her eyelids. Her heart pounded like the village talking drum during a festival. "You're lying," she croaked, her voice trembling. "Please tell me this is one of your usual rich people jokes, Chief. Why would you say something like that?" Chief Obeil sighed, running his hand over his bald head, his gold wristwatch flashing under the dim bulb. "Agata," he said quietly, "I'm not lying. I wish I was. Your mother, she was the only woman I ever truly loved." Agata blinked in disbelief. "You what?" He nodded, voice low. "Yes, I loved her. But my family, they said she wasn't good enough. Poor girl from the market square. How can a man like me marry such a woman? They made me leave her. I didn't even know she was pregnant until it was too late." Agata's breath hitched, her body stiff like she had swallowed ice. "So you mean," she said slowly, "you disguised yourself, married me, and hid the truth? Just to what? Play hero?" Chief Obella's voice cracked. "I only wanted to get you out of that house. I knew Mama Bisi was treating you like a goat she bought on credit. I couldn't stand it anymore." Agata let out a small laugh, the kind that didn't sound like laughter at all. "Wow, just wow." She wiped her tears, shaking her head. "So you decided to marry me? Me? Your daughter? For my own good? You must think I'm mad." Chief Obela bowed his head. "It was wrong, Agata. I know, but I didn't know any other way." "Other way?" she scoffed. "You could have told me the truth, Oga. You could have just said, 'Agata, I'm your father. Let's go home.' But no, you had to turn it into an episode of my father, my husband." Her chest rose and fell, her fists trembling. "You had no right," she said through clenched teeth. "You don't get to make decisions for me. You don't get to rewrite my story just because you have money." Chief Obel's eyes glistened with tears. "I know," he whispered. "I was afraid that you'd hate me, that you'd never forgive me." Agata's lips quivered. "Congratulations," she muttered. "You were right." She stormed out, her slippers slapping the wet ground, the harmattan breeze whipping her face. Her world felt like it had cracked open. She found herself by the riverbank, the same spot she always ran to when life became too heavy. The moonlight danced on the water's surface, mocking her pain with its calm beauty. She sank to the ground, hugging her knees like a child trying to hold herself together. Then she heard footsteps. "Agata," a familiar voice called softly. She didn't even look up. "David, please, not tonight." But David, being David, the ever-persistent troublemaker with a kind heart, ignored her. He crouched beside her, his jeans already dusted with sand. "What's wrong this time? Did Mama Bisi pour hot stew on you again?" Agata gave a watery laugh. "Worse." David studied her face, frowning. "Then talk to me." She took a shaky breath. "He's my father." David blinked. "Who? Chiobel?" She nodded. "He said he loved my mother, but his rich family said she was too poor. He left her, didn't know she had me. And now he disguised himself, married me, just to take me out of that wicked woman's house." David sat back, mouth hanging open. "Wait, he married you? To reveal the truth?" Agata nodded, her tears falling again. "He said he didn't know how else to save me." David whistled low. "Chai, Nollywood script no reach this one." She gave a weak laugh, wiping her tears. "He said he was afraid to tell me." David looked at her, eyes soft. "He was wrong, Agata. But maybe, just maybe, the man was trying to fix his mistake in the only foolish way he knew how." Agata glared at him. "You're defending him?" "No," David replied, raising his hands. "I'm just saying life can be messy. Sometimes people try to do good and it still looks bad. Doesn't make it less stupid, Shah." Agata burst into tears again, half laughing, half crying. "You're not helping." David smiled faintly. "I'm not trying to. I'm just reminding you you're not alone." She leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. The night was quiet except for the sound of crickets and her soft sobs. "You think I can ever forgive him?" she asked after a while. David's voice was calm. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday, when the anger stops biting and the hurt becomes a story instead of a wound, you might. Agatha sniffed. You sound like a preacher, he grinned. Preacher of vibes and nonsense. You know me. Later, Agatha stood again in Chief Obel's sitting room. The air was still, her heart steady this time. Chief Obel sat by the fire, looking smaller than she'd ever seen him, his agbada wrinkled, his walking stick leaning on the chair. Chief, she said softly. He looked up, startled. Agatha? I'm still angry, she said, voice trembling. You broke my trust. You made choices that weren't yours to make. But, she paused, swallowing hard. I know you were trying to protect me. Chief Obel's eyes glistened. I failed your mother, he whispered, but I couldn't fail you too. Tears filled Agatha's eyes. You should have told me, Chief, but I understand now, and I forgive you. For a moment, the room was silent, except for the crackle of firewood. Then, slowly, Chief Obel's tears spilled freely down his face. Thank you, my daughter, he said, voice trembling. You don't know what that means to me. Agatha reached out, taking his wrinkled hand in hers. For the first time, she didn't see a manipulative man. She saw a broken father, trying too late, but trying still. Then Agatha folded her arms and tilted her head like someone calculating Gary measurement. So, that means I will start calling you Daddy now? She asked, fighting a smile. Chief Obeli exhaled like a man who just survived pepper-sprayed onions. Yes, daughter. His voice carried pride, relief, and the tiny bragging tone of a man who had waited for this moment since forever. Agatha gasped quietly, glancing around the massive sitting room that glittered like wisdom. Quiet, but expensive. But Dad, I heard this house belonged to a white man living in America. Everyone even said the owner drinks milk without sugar and doesn't eat Eba. How did you pull that one? She asked, eyes wide. Chief Obel chuckled, the deep kind that vibrates in the stomach. I built it through a proxy when I was abroad. Nobody knew it was mine, so people assumed it was owned by some Oyinbo man that eats salad for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he said. Agatha burst into laughter. He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping like a man revealing government secrets. And this house is not even the tip of the iceberg. The estate at the village entrance? Mine. That hotel by the river? Mine. The plaza where Mama Ngozi sells suya? I built it. Even that land where goats do festival every evening? Mine too. Agatha blinked so fast she almost saw stars. They are all yours, Agatha. Every single one of them. Silence. Not the gentle type, but the kind that makes destiny take a breath. Agatha slowly sat down. You mean I've been crying poverty when I was actually a real estate heiress in training? Chief Obel shrugged gently with the calm of a billionaire pretending to be humble. Pretty much. Agatha stood suddenly. God, all those times I trekked to market. Meanwhile, I had estates doing push-up in this village and many more properties in Lagos. Chief Obele burst into laughter. Meanwhile, in Mama Bisi's house, her husband, Mr. Alfred, sat quietly at a corner like a man in spiritual retirement. After a painful silence, he sighed. Bisi, the truth is heavier than goat. She turned sharply. Which truth again? He rubbed his chin slowly. Agatha was never my biological child. Just as I told you earlier today. Mama Bisi gasped. And I still find it so difficult to believe. He cleared his throat like someone preparing for confession. When I married her mother, she was already 4 months pregnant. I knew the child wasn't mine, but I loved her mother regardless, he explained softly. Mama Bisi staggered into a chair like somebody plug-in had been removed. And Chief Obella was the pregnancy owner? She whispered. Mr. Alfred nodded. I didn't tell Agatha because I never had a child of my own. When her mother died, Agatha was the only piece of love I had left. She was the only child I could ever call mine, even if she didn't share my blood. Mama Bisi's eyes watered for the first time in years. You mean you carried another man's child like yours, and I treated her like broomstick? She said, voice cracking. Mr. Alfred slowly stood up, leaning on his old walking stick. Yes, BC, and history will not forget your performance. The silence that followed was louder than thunder. There. Mama BC paced like generator with low fuel. Chai! I threw gold away thinking it was brass. A neighbor, Mama Nkechi, shook her head. Madam, your own is advanced level mistake. You used billionaire child to wash pot. Mama BC slapped her forehead so loudly that even the goats reacted. And I used to talk to her anyhow. Agatha, fetch water. Agatha, sweep compound. Agatha, don't breathe too loud. Chai! Outside, the village gossip network had collapsed. News spread faster than network bonus at midnight. The poor girl is now the rich man's daughter. The house belongs to her father? She owns estates? Ah, humility has reward-o. Even the people who had never greeted Agatha in their lives were now practicing their smiling techniques. Mummy Agatha, how market? Not long ago, the same mouths had said, orphan without future. Life truly writes comedy with the finest ink. Back at Chief Obel's mansion, Agatha stood in front of her father, overwhelmed but smiling. So, Daddy General, when are we starting the property tour? She asked with a mischievous grin. Chief Obel laughed, standing up proudly. Tomorrow. We'll ride in something even the whole village will hear before they see. Agatha raised a brow. Tractor? Bentley. She gasped. God has upgraded my file, oh! They both laughed, but then a soft emotion brushed the air. Thank you for finding me, Agatha said gently. Chief Obel looked at her like a man who just got his entire life back. No, daughter. Thank you for existing long enough for me to find you, and thank you for surviving Mama BC's cruelty. The night outside was calm, the stars watching quietly as if even heaven knew something sacred had just been mended in Eziaka.